Welcome to another episode of the Gay Bar Takeover show, where we explore gay history, one bar at a time. I'm your host, Art Smith, and today's episode is part of a new series called Gay Bar Takeover. In this series, former pioneers from various industries, like finance, healthcare, and fast food, share their journeys as they transition into owning and operating gay bars. It's a fun mix of personal stories, behind the scenes insights, and the future of LGBT safe spaces. Our guest today is David Fischer, who started his career in the restaurant industry and has segued into the ownership of a number of gay bars and other businesses. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. I remember we interviewed you a couple of years ago when you were just getting started with Cocktail and the Wet Bar, a WETspot about to open.
Yeah.
But you've been going strong now for a couple of years there on Central Avenue in St. Pete. And a lot of people don't know the whole story. Right now, I'm talking to a number of different entrepreneurs who have started in other industries and recently segued into the gay bar industry and made an impact in their own market. You are one of those people. You started your career after college working with Olive Garden, like the mega restaurant corporation on the planet. What were you doing there? What brought you into that industry?
I started working at Olive Garden my last year of college and serving tables actually in Lubbock, Texas. And when I was finishing up school, my general manager at the time said to me, "Do you want to get into management? I think you'd make a good manager." I wasn't really interested in that, but I did love the restaurant business. And so he convinced me to take a day and follow him for the day and kind of see what a life in the management career could look like. I approached it. I had a good time doing it when I followed him for a shift, but I approached it more from I will someday get into the corporate world, into marketing and advertising, because I have degrees in marketing and advertising as well as architectural design. And so I thought I would someday get into the marketing and advertising side of Olive Garden because I liked the company Darden, who owned Olive Garden. At the time, it was actually General Mills, but Darden or General Mills owned them, and I liked the company. I liked what they stood for and how they treated people. And so I started working there. I was in the restaurants as a manager in Houston, Texas, is where I started out. And then I quickly became a general manager within the first year, and then did that for a couple of years, and then went into open a new restaurant with them and decided to get into their training and development side. And so I started very early on with my career with them in training and development and moved up the ladder. And eventually when I left, I was vice president of training and development for all of Darden restaurants, which included 8 brands at the time, and was over the training and development for everybody from hourly employee to executives for the company.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you got unlimited breadsticks.
I did.
So you did that for quite a number of years. How many years were you with Olive Garden?
I was with Darden for 25 years. Olive Garden, I was with originally and became their director of training before moving to a more company-wide training department. We kind of restructured how training and development happened at the time. And so I was over Olive Garden training first and then took over all 8 brands when I became the vice president of training.
So you had quite a long career in the restaurant industry, and you were dealing with a lot of different aspects of running a business, everything from employee training to corporate policy, to all kinds of things that make a business as big as Olive Garden run efficiently and keep their position in the market for a long time. Were you also involved in the marketing end of it at all?
Training and development got involved in kind of every area of the business. So because it was always about either executive development or people development in general, you could get involved in everything from the design of new restaurants for a brand to menu development and design to marketing and advertising. So we were always a part of it and we needed to train the launch of it. So I was on a lot of teams for different reasons. Like I said, if we were going to redesign Capitol Grille's bar, I would be on that team usually, because it eventually would have to roll out to the entire, company, and we'd have to execute it from a training side. So oftentimes we get involved in different projects like that.
So that gave you a pretty well-rounded background in business operations. And because you got started right out of college, you were pretty young when you were ready to kind of throw in the towel and retire. But before you did that, you made another decision. You said, I'm going to start my own business. And you went to St. Pete, and down on Central Avenue, you found a nice little storefront kind of right in the artsy area of Central Avenue. And you opened up a store called Zazoo'd, which
Correct.
allowed you to take your architectural training and your management training and your marketing training and roll it all into one and build a really cool little home accessory and furniture store that also does a lot of space design and interior design work.
Yeah,
Um,
so yeah, I actually opened Zazoo'd right before a year or 2 years before I left Darden and retired. So I had some great employees that one of them still with me, and we opened Zazoo'd. It was home decor, interior design. We do both commercial and residential interior design as well as kind of gift and furniture. And so I would come down on the weekends, and then go back on Monday mornings early in the morning to work in Orlando, and then had a beach house out here. And so I wanted to see what St. Pete was like, and if it was what I remembered it from visiting it long ago, and I liked it. And so a couple years in, I decided I was hitting 25 years with Darden and I would retire. And so I retired at 46, came down and solely did that for a while, about a year or a few years before I decided to continue on doing things. And it's gotten a little out of control now with 7 businesses underneath me now, and not much retirement going on.
well, every time I visit one of your businesses, you are there. So I know that you are involved in every one of them, and that you're just not sitting at home collecting a paycheck, that you're actively involved in the things that go on with your businesses, which is really, from what I've seen from the other entrepreneurs I've spoken to, a critical part. You can't just sit back and say, well, I wrote down this dream and this is how I want it to be. Now you go do it for me. You have to be there. You have to be part of it and guide it along the way.
Yeah, and really critical in the initial phases of starting a new business. So I would tell you the last 5 years, every year have opened a new business. And so you really got to get it to where it's running well. You feel your employees are living kind of the brand promise that you give, living up to kind of what the brand's about. And in order to do that, I'm a firm believer and you need to be there to project that on people and to set your standards in place and things of that sort. And so when we kind of went outside of what we were already doing at Zazoo'd, which was a lot of work, we started with the Saint and opened that business during the pandemic. And it just moved from there. A year later, we opened Cocktail, which is obviously a nightclub and bar. And then a year later, we opened the WETspot, which is a pool bar and day club. And then shortly after that, we opened a 54-room hotel, the Mai-Tai, which has its historic name from when the building was originally done as a hotel in 1926.
And it's worth mentioning that those last four businesses that you mentioned, plus the back room, which is your gift shop, all of those are housed within one physical space on Central Avenue, just a couple of blocks away from Zazoo'd.
Yeah,
So,
30,000 square feet of building space, all in a historic building.
and St. Pete in general, for people who are not from the area, St. Pete has kind of a history of having some groundbreaking concepts for gay spaces over the decades. I mean, going back into the 70s in downtown St. Pete, there was a place called the Wedgwood, which was one of the first LGBTQ hotels and bar spaces. Um, and then there was also the Flamingo. There was Suncoast Resort. There was one of my favorite bars of all time, which is down close to where you live, Bedrocks, was the coolest thing, a big building that looked like a Flintstones house that was a
Yeah.
gay bar with its own private beach. So St. Pete has had kind of a history of having some fun spaces for the LGBT community. And you
Yes.
came in and you said, well, Central Avenue isn't what it used to be. It doesn't have the vibrant nightlife that it had a decade or 2 decades ago. And I'm going to change that one bar at a time. And you started with the Saint, which is not exclusively a gay bar, but it is very open and welcoming. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your concept for the Saint, which I think is brilliant?
Sure. So, we started out, I worked with a individual in town who actually has a lot of hotels and commercial space, and I do all his interior design and have designed hotels for him in the past. And so he asked me to come look at this old building and see what I thought of it and what it could be. And as we were walking the property, he said, I think we should start with a restaurant on the corner and a bar back here. And he said, but I don't want to run, these businesses anymore. Who do you think in town would be good for these spaces? And so I said, well, I've always wanted to open a bar. I don't know why. And so that started kind of the venture with the Saint. And so in my mind, I had more developed what the place looked like than what the concept was. But I knew I wanted an all red space that, felt real comfortable and homey. I had a lot of, my partner Lee and I had a lot of antiques. I grew up Catholic, and I am the architect side of me really gets into cool design pieces, and so I had a lot of cool pieces from the Catholic Church. And so the idea just started coming together that let's make this speakeasy that is focused on exploring the differences between what church tells you to do in life and what you actually do in life. And the Saint was born. And so we just kind of morphed that idea into a concept where you have to know the sin of the week to get in. You go through a true confessional and you confess to, one of our spiritual hosts, and as you would a priest in a Catholic church. And then you get into what we call the sanctuary, which is the bar of the Saint, which is all red lit and has craft cocktails that are pretty amazing. And so we opened it during the pandemic. We continue to see record crowds every weekend. We're on an hour, 2 hour wait to get in there. And it's been a great concept for us. And so as we did that, and then there was more space in the building, the building owner came to me again and said, this is going so well, why don't you open another bar? And the original bar that I had wanted to create was Cocktail. That was really what I had in my head as wanting to own a bar, because I wanted to provide a safe space for people that I didn't really feel like I had when I was growing up. And something that was open to the street. And, you look at most bars out there and they're closed and dark, and because there's some anonymity and people don't want necessarily always to be seen there. And I wanted to have a bar that rivaled kind of the best straight bars out there. And so that's how kind of Cocktail then was developed. And then it just keeps going from there.
And the cocktail space, it has a very definite decor style to it. When you walk in there, it's not like some bars that you think, oh, they went to a hotel motel auction, bought 24 bar stools and some tables and threw them in a space. Everything in that space looks like it was designed for a boutique hotel or an upscale shop. It has very definite style and a very specific look to it, and it feels fresh. It feels kind of energizing when you walk in there. Of
Thank you.
course,
I like
you're
that.
welcome. And as you walk in, as you know, on the left-hand side, as you walk in the main doors, is where the DJ booth is. And you took the concept of the disco dance floor and decorations to a new level. So in there, you have a collection of disco balls over where the DJ area is, but they're not exactly normal. I mean, the disco balls are pretty normal, but you've embellished them. You've added a sense of humor and some color. You put multicolored kind of fluorescent slinkies in there. You've put dildos that glow in the light up there. It's a really kind of funky environment. What do people say when they see that?
They take pictures of it mainly. They have a good time. We get kind of all kinds of reactions to it, but mainly they're taking pictures of it in different angles and trying to be in pictures with it and touch it and really interact with the installation. We've changed the installation a couple times now. We add to it and we do different things each time. But they have a good time with it. It seems to create the excitement and the vibe for the place. And so it's worked out well. And so we've carried some of that throughout different parts of the property in different ways.
Yeah, now as you can tell, I am not particularly a fan of disco balls. So, that wouldn't really be my thing. I wouldn't do that at my space. But it really kind of grabbed my attention when I walked in there. And cocktail, so you have this front area of the bar with a DJ space. There's also now a dining option. You have food that you serve there, which is something that you've added since the inception of cocktail. And unlike many other bars, it's actually good food.
Thank you. That kind of comes from the background of being with Darden so long, but yeah, we have great food, I believe.
Well, that and the fact that you now have a hotel that kind of necessitates an option of, food for some of your guests.
Yeah, and we always knew we would have food. It was just merely getting a 100-year-old building up to par to serve food. And so initially the Saint opened with food, but we partnered with Lolita's, which is a local kind of mom and pop owned wine and cheese bar that has different tapas, appetizers. And so we partnered with them for our food in the beginning until we could get a kitchen up and running. And so now our kitchen facilitates food for all three bar properties as well as hotel. And we believe our food is very good.
It is. It's very good and it's very reasonably priced. So, a lot of people probably don't even know that it's there. And on the nights when you're really packed, like Pride and New Year's Eve and stuff, obviously you don't want to be serving food or eating there. But any other day of the week, you can drop in there and have, some great fried chicken or whatever. A lot of different choices on the menu. And I've gone there several times just to grab something to eat. It's amazing.
Love that. We love that.
Now, I remember last time we talked, the WETspot was under construction. So at that time, we had pictures of what was going to happen. We had a big hole in the ground with no water in it. And it was just kind of in development. Now it's been open for a good while. I've been there numerous times. It's always really popular. It seems like everybody loves being out in the Florida sun.
Yeah, it is a very popular place and has proven to really grow into it. In the beginning, people didn't know how it would be used because there was nothing like that in downtown St. Pete, really. on Central Avenue. And so it was an unexpected, I think, surprise as to how to even react to it. And so it took a little while for people to figure out, how they wanted to use the space. A lot of people would go and sit and not go in the pool and or just look at the pool. We kept thinking, we built this big pool, why don't people get into it? But we opened it a year before the hotel opened, knowing obviously that the hotel was going to open. And then it seems as though people have finally kind of embraced going in the pool. It's okay. And we see a lot more people in the pool today now. And I think it's because there's hotel guests there using it. There's, people there all day long. So it's open all day. We keep it open to the public so anybody can go in and use the pool and kind of the space, and people now use it in all different kind of ways. We have parties out there. We have special events out there. We can do holiday parties for people. We have a bunch coming up where they rent pieces of it out and use it for parties. And then we throw some great parties out there almost every day of the week. So it's become a great venue for us.
And it was something that was missing from the St. Pete nightlife scene. As I mentioned earlier, St. Pete has a history of having kind of gay hotels with pools. And there was always a place to go for a Sunday tea dance and, hang out by the pool. And they were always very popular. No matter which one we talk about, whether it's Wedgwood or Suncoast or Flamingo, they always seem to be popular. And then all of a sudden, when Flamingo closed, that option disappeared for the most part. And then when you open WETspot, you've kind of brought that back. And I've seen, the one thing that I noticed about WETspot, and you can confirm whether this is really true or just my perception, but WETspot, unlike Cocktail, seems to draw a much more diverse crowd. You get a broader range of ages and genders at WETspot than you do at Cocktail, even though they're only 26 inches apart from each other. I mean, they're literally sharing a wall.
Yeah. So I would like to think, I feel like, yes, a lot of that perception is true. I feel like the WETspot has really grown Cocktail as well from a diversity perspective as far as who goes in there. We've seen the crowds grow, and we win. The last 3-4 years, we've won best nightclub in all of St. Pete. So not just best gay nightclub, but best nightclub. We win both. And that's a big testament to the crowd and the diversity that comes in there, that everybody kind of relates to it and likes it and thinks it's a great place to go to have fun. And so I feel like it's creeping over into Cocktail and back and forth more than it ever has. But you're right. It was kind of segmented in the very beginning as Cocktail was more of a gay bar and people stayed kind of in that realm, and then it just has kind of WETspot has helped it kind of branch out and become even more diverse with different age groups, even, and different segments of the population that just didn't come in for whatever reason before. They feel like it's a great place, and then they creep back and forth now. Oftentimes people very rarely just stay in one spot without going to the other before they leave.
Yeah, it's given you an opportunity to do some things that the other bars in the St. Pete area couldn't really do. And one of my favorite events that you've done this year was when you partnered up with Bobby Bonanno from Fire Island. Bobby is the president of the Fire Island Pines Historical Preservation Society, and he's been on a mission to spread the word of what the Fire Island Tea Dance was and is. And he came up to you and he said, I have this idea. I want to do an event that recreates the vintage concept of the Fire Island Pines tea dance and pair it with a photographic exhibition from a 75-year-old Jewish woman from Long Island who took pictures in the 70s on Fire Island. And apparently you said yes, because it came off as a great Fire Island Pines weekend. You brought in Robbie Leslie and Steve Sidewalk, which are both well-known Fire Island DJs. Bobby was there. You put in a Saturday Night Fever dance floor out by the pool. You had a 75-year-old Jewish photographer walking around, mingling with the crowd. You had tons of people. I was there for all 3 days, and I cannot tell you how many people came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Robbie Leslie's here. Oh my God, this is just like the old days. Oh my God, I love this." So apparently, you struck a nerve. You came up with something that the other bars didn't or couldn't do, and it was a huge success. So I have to congratulate you for that.
Well, thanks. I mean, I owe a ton to Bobby for coming up with the idea as well, because he saw potential in the place and how it could do things. We don't do, as I think you know, seeing the property and seeing all the businesses, we don't do things half-ass. We get fully into them, and so when we commit to something, we really do it. We're hoping to work coming up soon with Bobby again, hopefully on our New Year's project, and so we're looking to kind of revive some of that New York nightlife scene with our New Year's, and so we hope to get to work with him again. But he did some great stuff and had some great ideas, and we just kind of took them and ran with them, and it ended up being an amazing weekend.
Well, I was there on Halloween weekend, the weekend before Halloween, when you were doing your little street festival out front, and Christine W. was there, which was another amazing performance. I mean, the crowd's energy was incredible. And there were so many people out there just having a blast of all ages, all genders. And it was directly across the street from Cocktail with the big rainbow cock on the background. It was just an amazing event, and we'll show some video of it, a little video clip that I took there. But that's another example of kind of coloring outside the lines. I don't know if that came from your architectural training, from your interior design background, or just kind of your crazy mind that you said, okay, we're going to do things differently here, and you have.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, I guess. We've at Zazoo'd, we've done events and obviously interior design, and so the creative side of my brain is constantly functioning, and I have a lot of creative, great individuals on the team that help me come up with the crazy ideas that either come out of my head or one of theirs, and then we just kind of roll with them when we feel it. And we truly get into it. We want to brand things, and we want to make them our own, and make them unique experiences. And so we try to do that with everything that we touch. And it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of details, but the team has figured out how to really successfully execute some of these events that we've done that truly bring people in and make people happy from all over. And that's what it's about. It's about making safe spaces where people can have a great time with others and feel as though they can be themselves.
Now, in keeping with that concept and the St. Pete history of gay hotels, you decided after WETspot was open that you were going to convert. Well, you knew this all along. I mean, nobody goes into a building that has 54 hotel rooms available in it and leaves it as empty space. So we knew you were going to do a hotel up there for a long time.
I'm glad you did. We were actually originally going to let somebody else do that side of it. And one night Lee looked at me and he said, "We can't let somebody else come in and run a hotel when we have the whole rest of the building. It just seems stupid." And I said, "Well, we've never run a hotel." And he looked at me and he said, "We've never done a lot of the things we do, but we do them well. And so let's do it." So we took on the challenge of, doing a hotel, and 54 rooms later, now we have a whole hotel, and that's a lot of rooms. I've learned in the short time it's been open. It is a whole lot of rooms to take care of.
Yeah, the first interview in the series was with Tristan Shoecraft. And as you know, he's purchased several hotels around the world, Puerto Vallarta, San Juan, and Fire Island Pines. And he said to me that his mission in buying these places was that he wanted a boutique gay hotel. His target was, I think, 30 to 45 rooms. He said, you don't really want anything much bigger than that because then you can't handle it. You can't fill it all the time. You start putting random people in there, it loses its flavor, it loses its identity. And you're at the upper end of that spectrum there with 54 rooms. But you kind of, when I first saw it, when I first saw the finished product, my first thought was Ian Schrager, when he did the boutique hotels on Miami Beach and in New York, it kind of had that vibe to me. Like you were very intentionally designing these small rooms to have an upscale kind of intentional look, but not be overwhelming, not be huge sprawling rooms with tons of antiques and crown moldings, but to be very purposeful yet have a very distinct design to them. And you've carried that out throughout the entire hotel and of course the clubs that are attached to it.
Yeah, so we tried to make it have a unifying theme, obviously, throughout the property that, there's bits and pieces that carry on from one place to the next. And so, I'm glad that you're saying that because that's really what we were going for, is trying to achieve something. There have been gay hotels in St. Pete, as you mentioned, and I had been to two of the three that you talked about, the Suncoast and the Flamingo. And I said, and I used to think they were brilliant ideas, but I always said I wish there was something a little more upscale than what they're offering at these two properties. And so that's what we really tried to do in our vision, was to bring more of the boutique upscale feel to the property without getting too overboard and too high end. And so we're trying to bring that traveler that wants a nicer place to stay in a great city with great destinations and things to do. And we feel like that, that's the product that we offer people as they come in. But 54 rooms is a lot of rooms.
And it's also, very unabashedly gay. I mean, you've made it so it's obviously welcoming to a variety of people, but when you walk in, if you're a gay person and you walk into the Mari Jean, take the elevator up to the second floor where the registration desk is, the elevator is filled with what almost looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch wallpaper. I mean, it's got these, sexy guys on the wall. It's not some normal elevator interior. When you step out into the lobby, the registration desk has like 3-foot tall neon letters that blink the word cock. It's definitely welcoming and says, yes, you can be yourself here. You can be gay here, But at the same time, because it's a hotel and not a motel, it has a different vibe. The other two places you mentioned were both basically motels. Yeah. So from the pool area, you could see the balconies of all the rooms. You could kind of walk along the walkway and peek in people's windows. But this is a true hotel. All the rooms are enclosed and separated from the bar space. So generally speaking, people who are at the pool or in cocktail do not see anybody. They don't know who's staying there and they don't have access to those floors.
Right, right.
And that's part of what makes the difference of what you're doing with that.
Yeah, yeah. There's good and bad to obviously being able to see a pool from a room, and there's benefits and there's also negative. So we think we've struck the right balance by what we have, and hopefully others feel the same way. And so it's great to hear you echo some of these feelings that we intentionally designed into the property are being noticed for sure.
Now, once you open the hotel and you pretty much had the whole building, buzzing with activity, you also opened up a gift store downstairs, which is kind of in the hallway space that connects the cocktail bar with the WETspot bar. So you kind of walk right past there. And it's a nice size little, intimate boutique that sells the normal hotel gift shop type stuff, a couple souvenirs, some stickers, swimsuits, some apparel options. But you've also, in that space, which by the way also has some great design elements in it. I mean, every time I go in there, I look at something, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But in addition to that, you've also beefed up the collection of your own product. So, like the cocktail brand, the T-shirts and the things that you've put out there are much more creative than what we see in a lot of other places. A lot of bars just put, their logo on there and they want to sell it for, 25 bucks at the back bar. But you have actually developed a whole brand around this rainbow rooster, with all kinds of witty phrases. For people who haven't been there or haven't seen it, we'll put it up now. But the logo for Cocktail, the word cock, C-O-C-K, is in capital letters, big. And then tail runs up the side. So when you see it, cock is the focus. And the same is true of your shirts. They have some brilliant designs. We're going to put some up here so people can see them. But you've really taken this whole thing to the next level. You didn't just say, okay, we're going to put the name on there and that's it. You've created a whole identity around everything you do, whether it's the spaces themselves or the taps for the beer, or the faucets in the bathrooms in the hotel, or the front registration desk, or anything that you do. It all kind of ties back to this same concept.
Yeah. And that again, that's great because we knew we'd sell some t-shirts just from the name, right? And then we have the tagline, stiff drinks, hard liquor, and raging good times, to go along with that, the logoing. So the t-shirt sold incredibly well in the first year, just the original t-shirt that wasn't the rainbow rooster, and we've just kind of evolved as we've gone along. So the original kind of golden yellow colored rooster, and saying was on the shirt, and we still sell that one today quite a bit. But we progressed for our first Pride and added the geometric rainbow rooster. And now the rooster kind of takes on all different personalities as we go and have different things. Like it had a witch's hat on for Halloween, and we're having a Wicked gay party for the launch of the movie Wicked in a couple weeks coming up here. But the t-shirts, we struggle sometimes to come up with the sayings that go on them, but they sell like not, I've never sold so many t-shirts in my life. They sell really well. And when we get one, we know we have the right one. Like everybody goes, yeah, that's the next t-shirt. So, we have some great ones, and they've sold really well, and we really haven't retired many of them. I think there may be one or two that have retired that they weren't selling bad. They just weren't the top sellers. So we didn't focus on them as much, but we have a good, I'd say 15 t-shirt designs that we sell in the store that all sell really well and do really well. And then we have, them in hoodies and hats, and people wanted koozies in them. And so we try to keep giving them more of what they want because they like the sayings that are on them so much. And it's really funny, like straight men love them more than I think gay men do sometimes. They buy them like crazy. And we sell them to everyone, and we see them we travel and we see them internationally. We see them all over the place. And it's great advertising and marketing. And that's really why the original t-shirt and thought behind the logo was developed, was let's come up with something that is recognizable, that people will want to wear and will become billboard for us. And so really all these people are billboards for our business. And so it's really paid off well. We can wear t-shirts when we just got back from Europe this past summer, and we saw people that would come up and say to us, oh my God, I've been to that bar in St. Pete and it's amazing. And then we had people that would show up in the same t-shirt we had on, and we'd all take pictures, and we didn't even know who they were, over in Europe. And so it really has brought connections together and people together and done some cool things.
Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience because I have several of your t-shirts and I
And
do
you
wear them when
appear
I
in
go
them,
out.
you appear in them, and I love it when you take a picture in one of them.
Well, let me tell you, when I walk into, especially gay spaces, if I walk into a gay bar or, a gay retail store or whatever, and I'm wearing one of those shirts, the responses I get are amazing. I mean, the even if they don't realize right away that it came from your bar, because the phrase on the front oftentimes doesn't specifically have your bar, say the bar. Um, the response is always amazing. Oh, I love your shirt. Oh, I love your. That's so cool. Where'd you get that? And of course, I always tell them. And now you even want to step further, although you don't have it in medium right now, but you have one that's all in rhinestones. So you need to
Yeah.
work on getting that in medium, so some of us can get one.
Yeah, we're working on it. That one takes a little while to make, obviously,
Yeah, I'm
but we
sure.
will get some more of them.
You got to stay up all night putting those little sequins in
Yeah,
one by
no,
one.
that's not me. That's one thing I don't do actually.
So you had all this success going on with these different businesses all along Central Avenue, and you were allegedly retired. And then you said to yourself, gee, I need something else to do. So you found the t-shirt you're wearing and you said, this t-shirt would be a great way to kick off a pride celebration in winter in St. Pete. How did that whole concept come apart?
And that's a
Come
whole
up?
new company. We sat there and we heard so much feedback. Pride in St. Pete is great, but it's hot. It's really hot in the month of June here. It's one of the largest prides there is in the US and the largest in Florida. 300,000 people attend the events. They do an amazing job, and it's just been a really great source of getting people to the property. And so we kept hearing they moved it years ago from Grand Central, which is where we're located and the property is located, down to the waterfront so they could have bigger crowds. And they were trying to, at the time, compete for World Pride. They needed more space to do that. And so the parade route moved down there. And there was quite a bit of argument. Should it have moved from really what is seen as the neighborhood of St. Pete? And people today still argue about it. So the two things we heard were we'd like to have Pride also in the winter, and we'd like to have it, when it's cooler, and we'd like to have it back in Grand Central where it started. And so as we were sitting there saying, how do we fill up a 54-room hotel? We said, we got to follow the model of a Provincetown or a Fire Island or, these destination Palm Springs where they have events almost every week to bring people, excite people to bring them in. And so we started saying, okay, we need to do this. We need to come up with these, Fire Island Pines weekend kind of things. And so that was kind of the blossoming of what could be. And it went really well. And so we just started saying, what are some other things we could do? And in my head, I kept hearing Pride in the winter, Pride in the winter. And so I just said, could we do this? Could we have a week long of events and do this? And so it has ballooned quickly into its own company and working in partnership with the nonprofit and the Grand Central District to make it come to life. But we have 8 days of programmed events that are coming up in February 16th through the 23rd. And that we're creating excitement about, doing a lot of work behind the scenes of what these events will look like. But there's some amazing stuff. We're going to have an event that basically is called Drag Race, and we get teams of 6, and they have to build we give them the wheels and the axle, and they have to build a box car out of it, and they all have to be in drag, and they push their person down the street across the finish line, and whoever finishes first wins. And we have so many teams excited about doing it. They win $5,000 for their chosen charity, so they get to figure out who they want to donate their winnings to. And it's taken off. And so there's that event. We're going to have a more formal, because we've heard feedback that people want a more formal dress up event as part of the festivities. So we've got a bunch of fun stuff planned. And we've got sponsors coming on board, and it's, you know, it's gonna look like it's gonna be a great thing, hopefully in February. And so we're planning fast, because February is coming up fast, faster than I
It
wanted.
is. Time is a flying. So it starts a couple days after Valentine's Day. Is there a website for it yet, or?
There is a website. It's winterpridestpete.com. And it has all the information up to date as of now. If you want to be a sponsor, if you want to be a volunteer, if you want to go to an event, it's all on there. It'll tell you about all the events each day and what's happening. And then we're getting, you know, obviously our hotel will be a host hotel, but there will be others coming on board soon. And we just, you know, we're trying to make it a St. Pete destination event. St. Pete is beautiful in the summer, but it's also amazing when the winter's on our side, and we have beautiful, you know, 80-degree days and 60-degree nights. That's ideal, and that's why we live through the summers to get to the winter. So we're hoping that that whole crowd that visits us that time of year will be able to enjoy you know, a celebration where people can be themselves and celebrate their pride and the history of it and all of that together. And so we have different family things planned. We have, you know, things for different segments of the LGBTQ community that you can celebrate and feel safe and you know, celebrate with one another, that people like-minded individuals.
Very cool. I mean, it'll expose the Grand Central District and your bars and hotel to a new group of people, to those snowbirds that never experience Pride, because they're not here in June, they're here in the winter. And so it'll show a new energy. In fact, Bobby Bonanno and I were talking during the Halloween street fair there, and came to the same conclusion that it adds such an energy to the area. You know, when you go down there, I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been there for a Halloween event before. And to see the activity on the street and how excited people were, and being a little cooler, not having to worry about, you know, sweating to death and passing out from heat stroke. It was a really good energy. And in fact, your contribution with the Fire Island Tea Dance and exposing Bobby to St. Pete, he obviously has now moved to St. Pete. So there's something about this, what you're doing, that is impacting people from other places to say, hey, you know, St. Pete is a pretty cool place to be, you know, to be gay, even if it's in Florida.
Yeah, well, kind of every state now after our recent election.
I know, right?
It kind of looks like Florida, but at the same time, it's a very amazing accepting city and amazing welcoming city for folks, and it has been since I can remember, since I've been coming here as a kid. It has always been a very artsy town that is cool and welcoming and different. And so, you know, kind of similarly but different than Fort Lauderdale. And so we've got some great cities that are LGBTQ destinations. And unfortunately, the news doesn't do us justice when they report in such a way. Don't go to Florida or don't do this. Florida is amazing and an accepting place, and I would not want to live anywhere else but where I live today. Obviously, or I wouldn't have so many businesses here, but it's a great place to live. There's great museums, there's great art, there's great beaches, and there's a great city. So you kind of have the best of all worlds coming together in one.
So you've got all these activities going on, all these different businesses that you've built over the last 10 years or less. And you've just launched this Winter Pride concept that's coming up in February. What does the future hold? Is there more down the road? Are you going to be planning more events with this same company that's doing Winter Pride? Are we going to see a lot more activity from Cocktail and Grand Central area?
Yeah, I mean, we want it to be an annual event. So we want it to grow every year. We want it to be, you know, about, like I said, 300,000 people come to the St. Pete Pride in the summer, and about 100,000 people go to the Halloween on Central event. And that was kind of the testing ground of, could we have an event? And that Halloween on Central has proven to do that. If it's beautiful weather and it's a good event, people will come out. And so we believe that, you know, we could easily have crowds that span a week long of visiting and really want to do all these events and participate. And so we hope that and we've made it into its own company. We hope that it will continue to prosper and do well and bring tourism to St. Pete, because that's what it's really about, is as making it possible for more LGBTQ people to visit the city and see what's so great about it.
And to attract new LGBT businesses so that, there's more going on in the area. Because at one time, where you are in Grand Central, on Central Avenue, there was a lot of gay activity there, and it's kind of diminished a little bit, other than your slice of the pie, which is amazing how many options there are in that one building. So we're really glad that you took on that task, that you decided to unretire and dip your toe in so many different pools there. Say, hey, we could do a restaurant, we can do a speakeasy, we can do a disco, we can do a pool bar, we can do a motel. Now we're going to have an event company. So, it's really nice to see that you've made such an impact in the LGBT community and kind of brought the Grand Central District back to the level of neighborhood that it was, maybe a decade or two ago.
Yeah, we're trying one business at a time, I guess. Hopefully no more.
Oh, so looking back, knowing that you spent 25 years in the restaurant business, how much of that experience working with a company like Darden and Olive Garden, do you feel kind of came over and helped you to open the businesses and operate them that you have now?
Every bit of my experience has played into what I do today. I would tell you that Darden is a brand that their larger brand is very focused on brand identity and keeping that brand identity separate for all 8 brands. Now they have more than that, but yet being able to support them all from the same structure and kind of ecosystem that supports them. I have that same drive and perfection in me that company taught me in order to make that all possible. So I would say 100% of my corporate experience has paid off and kind of been used in all of my businesses and everything that I do. I mean, they're a company that clearly can perfect things and perfect how a brand operates, because they have so many of them, and they're the world's largest and the 25th largest employer in the US when I left. So they're doing something right, and it definitely had an impact on my career.
So to other people out there who are either corporate executives or entrepreneurs that are not in the gay bar business, what would you say to them about the opportunity to move into that space and put their own mark on the industry?
I would say, take from your experience what you can and make it relevant. Everything you do in life is part of relevance for your future. And if you really have a dream and a passion, it takes a lot of work. I'm not going to kid you, to run a small business or a large business for that matter, or many businesses. It's you got to have passion. You got to have the strength to do it and the stamina to do it, because it's an everyday thing. Even when the few times we take vacations, they are definitely filled with communication back to our businesses and what's going on the ground level. So if you're willing to commit the time and the energy and have the focus to be detailed about it, use your experience and it will pay off. Experience is a huge part. There's education, but I truly am a believer that experience can overtake education any day. Somebody's experiences and what it brings to their life and how it shapes their life will take them far if they embrace them and use it in the future. And so I think that's important to anybody that wants to go down this path. I would tell you the LGBTQ audience is very critical, and I don't know why, but it is the toughest business from a critic standpoint. Somebody is always criticizing, and it's not from the straight world that they're doing it. It's our own people that are tearing it apart and trying to poke holes in it. and that's disheartening and can sometimes make you feel bad. But at the end of the day, for every one person that tries to do that, there's 99 others that are behind saying, thank you for what you do. You provide a safe space for me I didn't have, and we love it, and we have great times here, and we create memories here. So that outweighs the other. You just have to sometimes remember that when there's other people in the community trying to tear you down.
And I've noticed that you have quite a number, as particularly by gay bar standards, you have quite a number of long-term employees too. People who started there and have just stuck around. You keep seeing the same people, which is a testament to the fact that they're being treated right and that the businesses are successful, because obviously if they weren't getting paid or if they were being abused, they'd go somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
we have some great employees that help bring it all to life and help even, create the vision. And so I believe that. I think they're making more money than they'll make anywhere in town because we're busy and we're having fun doing what we're doing, and it shows, and that pays off. And so they love working there. We treat them like family. They are our family. They're our chosen family, and we enjoy spending time with them, or we wouldn't be there 7 days a week.
and we enjoy visiting there. It's amazing to me that the energy is always so vibrant there. I don't think I've ever been to your bar, to Cocktail or to WETspot, and just seen a bunch of people moping around. They always have a smile on their face. They're dancing and talking, and they're having a good time, which is something that you don't see in a lot of spaces. A lot of times you see people glued in the corner to their cell phone and checking their email. So that's another testament to the fact that you're doing something that's really attracting the right audience.
Well, you may see me in the corner checking my email, but thank you for noticing the fact that the employees are having fun.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back and doing another segment with us, and for telling us about the journey to getting into the bar business, and kind of some insight on how your corporate career kind of helped shape what you're doing today. Thank you so much for what you do, Dave.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Have a great
You're
day.
welcome.
Bye.